Aurora Jarat will join and give us few tips about lifestyle issues, lifestyle diseases, etc. But before we start our session today, I'll invite Ashuji to go for morning prayer.
थैंक यू वामसी जी. सभी को प्रणाम. सर के चरणों में बार बार प्रणाम. आज चैत्र माह की कृष्ण पक्ष की एकादशी तिथि जो सर को अति प्रिय थी. आइए सब मिलकर कृष्ण जी की वंदना करेंगे. मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघ्यते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम. मैं परमानंद माधव को नमन करता हूँ, जिनकी कृपा गूंगे को वक्ता में बदल देती है और अपंग को पहाड़ पर चढ़ा देती है. मैं माधव के परम आनंद की अभिव्यक्ति से बहने वाली इस कृपा को याद करता हूँ और उनकी प्रशंसा बार बार करता हूँ. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Ashuji. Thank you for that beautiful play. Let's start our topic today. Give me just a few minutes, okay? Our mental health is sometimes that impacts our something that impacts our eating and sleeping habits and has a lot to do with our physical health as well. It is important to address our mental health needs, or oftentimes we will feel the impact of it on other areas of our health also. A mental illness is a condition that affects the person's thinking, feeling, behavior, or mood. These conditions deeply impact day-to-day living and may also affect the ability to relate to others. Mental health conditions are far more common than you think, mainly because people don't like to or scared to talk about them. We often tend to confuse with the mental professionals who are psychologists, who are psychiatrists, who are counselors. All these professionals we often get confused with. So today's session, Bhakti Mehtaji will give us a few clues to whom to contact, which professional we need to go when the issue is arised or we face, or generally as it is common well-being of psychological well-being. Over to Bhakti ji.
Thank you, Vansuji. Can I share slide? Can you see it?
Yes, Bhakti ji.
Okay. So in this understanding mental health professionals, today we are going to talk about the difference between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a psychotherapist. There are a lot of misconceptions about kiske paas jana chahiye, kyun jana chahiye, who does what, is it the same thing, is it different? So I thought to start with the whole mental health series. This is important कि हम समझे कि ये जो तीन लोग हैं, there's another professional which is called a mental health professional, which we will talk about later. मगर ये जो psychiatrist, psychologist और psychotherapist है, who are these people? क्या होते हैं, क्या करते हैं, और हमें किसके पास जाना चाहिए, for what reason? So first we'll start with the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. Now a psychiatrist is a medical doctor. उसने MBBS किया है, MD किया है in psychiatry. And he is the only person in the whole mental health umbrella who can prescribe medication. जो आपको दवाई दे सकते हैं, एलोपैथिक दवाई दे सकते हैं. The psychiatrist has done medicine. He is a doctor. And he has studied this जो 8 साल की पढ़ाई होती है MBBS MD he has studied it. And जब हम कोई भी डॉक्टर, सपोज अपने फैमिली डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं, हम उसको बोलते हैं कि मेरे पेट में दर्द है, मेरे सर में दर्द है, वो आपको दवाई देता है. Exactly like that, you go to a psychiatrist, you say मुझे 1-2 महीने से ठीक नहीं लग रहा है, मुझे भूख नहीं लग रही है, मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही है, और I'm feeling generally low, वो आपको दवाई दे देंगे. That is the work of a psychiatrist. Okay, he will understand, he will diagnose कि आपका प्रॉब्लम क्या है. जैसे आप अगर डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो तो सर दर्द का प्रॉब्लम क्या है, the doctor will diagnose और accordingly आपको दवाई दे देंगे. Now that is exactly what the psychiatrist does. His appointment time is about maximum of 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes अगर वो ऐसे डॉक्टर है जो सुनना चाहते हैं कि आपके साथ क्या हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है, तो 15 मिनट लेंगे. नहीं तो जैसे आप अपने फैमिली डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं और 10 मिनट में वो आपको दवाई देके भगा देते हैं. Exactly like that, a psychiatrist will treat you. Okay, now both assess. Now a psychologist. One, the psychologist is not a medical doctor. Okay, the psychologist may have a doctorate or multiple masters. Like I have 3 masters. A psychologist can have multiple masters or a PhD. A psychologist can never ever prescribe medication. अगर आप किसी के पास गए और आपको दवाई प्रिस्क्राइब की, then that should be a red flag, और आपको पता होना चाहिए कि ये जो कर रहे हैं वो illegal कर रहे हैं. They can never prescribe any medication. Of course, some psychologists, and I do that too, there are some bark remedies, there are some over-the-counter drugs. जैसे मैं बोलूँगी अच्छा आपको headache होता है तो Crocin ले लीजिए या Calpol ले लीजिए, which is fine. But any psychotropic drug, a psychologist is not allowed to prescribe. अच्छा पता सब कुछ होता है कि भाई ये बीमारी के लिए ये दवाई है, ये बीमारी के लिए ये दवाई है, और अगर आपको साइकियाट्रिस्ट ने दवाई लिख के दी है तो द साइकोलॉजिस्ट विल रीड एंड काइंड ऑफ फिगर आउट कि भाई आपको कभी लेनी चाहिए, मगर वो खुद प्रिस्क्राइब नहीं कर सकती है. व्हाई द साइकियाट्रिस्ट विल ट्रीट द सिम्टम्स. जैसे हम हमारे डॉक्टर फैमिली डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं, जीपी के पास, और वो सिम्टम ट्रीट करते हैं. सर दर्द हो रहा है तो सिम्टम ट्रीट करेंगे, पेट में दर्द हो रहा है तो वो ट्रीट करेंगे. वैसे ही साइकियाट्रिस्ट जो है वो सिम्टम ट्रीट करते हैं. साइकोलॉजिस्ट जो है वो रूट कॉज में जाते हैं कि अगर आपको सर दर्द हो रहा है, कि आपको भूख नहीं लग रही है, कि नींद नहीं सो नहीं सकते हैं आप, या अगर आपके फॉर अ प्रोलॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, बहुत समय से आपका मूड ठीक नहीं है, so the psychologist will go to the root of the problem. Okay, and uska appointment time 45 minutes hota hai, depending on the kind of treatment they are giving you. So sometimes 45 minutes is the maximum time that they can give you. Sometimes they'll give you 20 minutes depending on the therapy that they are using, also depending on what kind of what is your need, कि आपकी जरूरत क्या है. आपकी जरूरत जो 45 minutes के सेशन की है, normally 90% of the time the appointment will be a 45-minute session. Okay, just explain. Psychiatry means medical treatment, ology means the understanding of the topic. Now there are different kinds of psychologists. Psychiatrist एक ही होता है doctor. Now psychologists there are different types. Depending on your need, you will go to that psychologist. Okay, so there is a developmental psychologist. My primary degree is, my first master's is developmental psychology. This is an understanding of the human being from fetus to death. Okay, पूरा developmental gamut जो जब से pregnancy के time से जो elderly होते हैं 90, 95, 100 years old, पूरा developmental gamut they study and they treat. A clinical psychologist is the one. अभी अगर psychiatrist के पास जाएंगे, वो आपको दवाई देंगे, और psychiatrist always आपको clinical psychologist के पास भेजेंगे to understand, to get an evaluation कि आपकी disease क्या है. ओके ये जो क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट है वो अलग अलग तरह की टेस्ट करती है और ये जानने के लिए कि आपको एक्चुअली हुआ क्या है. So ये जो
are you changing the slides?
You can't see the change.
No. You close it and do the presentation. Share it again. You close it once.
Share again. Sorry, I'm sorry. Can you see psychiatrist versus psychologist?
Yes, now.
Can you see the subfields?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So then we spoke about the developmental psychologist. Then we spoke about the clinical psychologist who do the tests. Now clinical psychologist का appointment होता है at least तीन घंटे तक minimum, क्योंकि वो अलग अलग आपके टेस्ट करेगी. So they break up this appointment into 3 appointments or 2 appointments depending on your need. और ये आपको क्योंकि उनको टेस्ट करना होता है, each test is about half an hour का टेस्ट होता है, तो वो या तो ब्रेकअप करती हैं या फिर अगर बच्चे हो तो बच्चे kids can sit for a longer time, तो उनको जरा ज्यादा बिठा लेते हैं. Experimental psychologists, these are very important psychologists. These people are the ones who do research. Also, they are the psychologists who come up with and make different kind of therapies to help people. School psychology, this is my second master's in school psychology. जैसे आप the name suggests कि भाई हम स्कूल में जो बच्चों को तकलीफें होती हैं, स्कूल में जो इश्यूज होते हैं बच्चों को, जैसे पढ़ाई के डेवलपमेंटल इश्यूज या पढ़ाई के इश्यूज के टीनेजर्स को या बच्चों को behavioral issues होते हैं, those are taken care of here. Forensic psychologists forensic काम करते हैं, और another industrial psychologist, normally हम ये बड़ी companies में MNCs में they will have a industrial psychologist in a HR department. Personality psychologist, this is my third degree, counseling psychologist. Counseling psychologist is a very important branch of psychology. So all these psychologists are mutually exclusive. जो clinical psychologist कर सकते हैं वो counseling psychologist नहीं कर सकते. कभी कभी करते हैं, but the thing is they haven't studied that field. और normally नहीं होता है, जो clinical psychologist होती है वो clinical काम ही करती है. So and counseling psychologist में जैसे चाइल्डहुड काउंसलिंग है, फैमिली काउंसलिंग है, मैरिटल काउंसलिंग है, सेक्सुअल काउंसलिंग है, थेरेपी, डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ थेरेपी है, ये सब एवरीथिंग फॉल्स इनटू काउंसलिंग साइकोलॉजी. ओके, सो नाउ काउंसलिंग साइकोलॉजिस्ट किसके साथ काम कर सकती है? लाइक आई जस्ट मेंशन्ड टू यू दैट दे हैव अ होल, इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फील्ड ऑफ साइकोलॉजी और बहुत अलग अलग तरह के काम करती है. Now one of the very important things over here is a mental health counselor. Now ये जो mental health professionals होते हैं, they are not necessarily psychologists. उन्होंने psychology नहीं पढ़ी हुई. Okay, मगर they can be social workers who have done psychological social work. They can be mental health counselor even by doing a certificate course. So ये बहुत important है समझना कि आप जिसके पास जा रहे हो उसने किया क्या है, कि वो पढ़े क्या है. That is very, not that the person will not be effective, because counseling is more an intuitive game than it is about studying. But जो अगर if you don't have the knowledge, you obviously cannot practice. So ये बहुत important है. ये mental health professionals are a varied range of people और बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, especially in the social psychology field. Marriage and family counseling, grief counseling is a very important field also, especially this time in ये 2 साल COVID के, we did a lot of grief counseling. Sorry. So जो people who grief counseling का मतलब है people who have had deaths in the family or major illnesses in their family or loss of any kind, loss of job, loss of finances, loss of business. It all comes under the grief counseling gamut. And essentially what we practice in the OPD at HCFI is brief counseling. Brief counseling का मतलब है कि आप जल्दी more impactful और quick solutions दे लोगों को, because we have that time constraint. So that is not mentioned here, but brief counseling is at least in right now when there's trauma or any kind of the last time we did grief counseling was earthquakes जब भी हुए हैं, natural disasters हुए हैं, tsunami हुआ है, that's when we had done grief counseling. This time we did a lot of grief counseling work during the pandemic. Okay. Abhi, this is the last slide. This is now who to be aware of and cautious about. Now, there are lots of people who practice under mental health, the mental health umbrella, right? और जब भी आप किसी के पास जाते हो, so I will give you like a chain of events या like a guided events कि आप कैसे जाओगे. Suppose आज आपको ठीक नहीं लग रहा है, you will wait for 1 week. फिर आप सोचेंगे कि नहीं अभी कुछ इसका करना पड़ेगा, मुझे क्यों नींद नहीं आ रही है, मुझे क्यों खाना अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, मुझे क्यों किसी के साथ बात करना अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, मुझे क्यों घबराहट हो रही है. अगर आपको ऐसा लगता है तो आप पहले अपने जीपी के पास जाओगे. फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट जीपी. ओके, वो आपको मे बी दवाई देंगे, मे बी आपको बोलेंगे कि नहीं आपको शायद साइकाइट्रिस्ट की जरूरत है. देन यू विल गो टू अ साइकाइट्रिस्ट. The psychiatrist will evaluate whether आपको दवाई चाहिए या आपका काउंसलिंग से काम हो जाएगा. Normally when you go to a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist will prescribe you a very light dose of something so that immediately आपका जो symptoms है उसमें relief आए. Then the psychiatrist will send you to a psychologist. Without the psychologist will take a couple of sessions, 2-3 sessions to understand कि अच्छा क्या हो रहा है आपको. And then the psychologist will tell you कि अच्छा ये आपके symptoms है, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि आपको evaluation की जरूरत है. So if there is a need, she will say clinical psychologist. Clinical psychologist के पास एक session and she will treat you for the for what you have, your problem. Now, who is a psychotherapist? अपना पहला जो slide था, who is a psychotherapist? Now, psychologists or psychotherapists essentially are the same people. Okay, they psychologists. A psychotherapist is one of these. Especially the counseling psychology is called a this is different kinds of therapy to help you. Where ये दूसरे जो fields of psychology है, उसमें therapeutic help नहीं मिलता है. Okay, and therefore that person is called a psychotherapist. Okay. Now who should be, so that is, so with a psychologist, if for relief of symptoms, because the psychologist will go into the root of what is happening to you, how it is happening to you, what are your triggers, ये approximately 7 से 10 sessions हो जाते हैं. Because पहले 2-3 session आपको trust build करने में होता है. Because अगर आपको trust नहीं है उस psychologist में, तो आप क्यों उसको आपकी बात बताएंगे, right? जो आपके troubles हैं या आपके problems हैं, आप क्यों बताएंगे? So 2 sessions normally is to kind of build trust. Third session onwards, the psychologist will start therapies, and these go on for between 7 and 10 sessions. You will need at least to kind of feel a relief in your symptoms. Acha, abhi because the mental health symptoms are triggered. Every time there is a trigger, you may experience the same stress है, काम आप करते हैं और उसमें stress है. Now in that, आपने साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास गए फॉर स्ट्रेस, उसने 10 सेशंस आपके लिए, आपको ठीक लग रहा है, और नेक्स्ट टाइम आपको जब भी स्ट्रेस होगा वापस वो सिम्टम्स आएंगे, एंड हु कैन लिव विदाउट स्ट्रेस, राइट? सो आप यू आर गोइंग टू फील दोज सेम सिम्टम्स अगेन बिकॉज स्ट्रेस इज योर ट्रिगर. So one of the responsibilities of a psychologist is that she should be able to train you कि अगली बार आपको अगर ये ट्रिगर हो तो आप अपने आप को कैसे संभाल सकते हो. That is very important. ये before she ends the 10th session, she has to be able to train you. Then of course you can do once in a month session, then you can do once in 3 month session, basically to keep in touch with the psychologist. Okay. Now who to be careful of? There are some people who call themselves health coaches or life coaches. Okay, or would bahut, I'm not saying that they are effective, they're not effective. I'm not saying that they are effective or not effective. But they are not mental health professionals. They haven't studied mental health. But they are good at, like, you know, a lot of people call themselves life coaches, and then they do Reiki, which is a very good system of healing. They do pranic healing, but these are alternate systems. Okay, so it's important to understand कि मैं किसके पास जा रहा हूँ, क्यों जा रहा हूँ, और मुझे इनका responsibility क्या है. Another very important thing to understand is अगर आप psychologist के पास जा रहे हो, psychologist का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये नहीं है कि आपको बताए कि आपका ये प्रॉब्लम है, ये आपका सोल्यूशन है, ओके डन. इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर हर टू help you figure out कि आपका सोल्यूशन क्या होना चाहिए. So psychologist will never give you answers. A psychologist will never give you advice. If you are going for the therapy, if you're going for brief therapy, because the nature of this therapy is such that she has to give you instant solutions. Okay, so that is important for you to understand कि मैं क्यों जा रहा हूँ, इनकी responsibilities क्या है, मैं इनकी qualifications क्या है. That is very, very important for you to understand before you go to any mental health professional. Okay, I will take questions if there are any questions.
Yes, Bhakti ji. Nidesh ji पूछ रहे, is there any lab test to check the depression?
हाँ, lab test हो सकती हैं. If एक तो sodium potassium balance everybody needs to check, because this can cause mental health. Thyroid can cause mental health. So your first, as soon as you go to the psychiatrist will ask you for a battery of tests to understand that whether ये physiological cause है या emotional cause है. अगर physiological cause है तो वो उस हिसाब से दवाई देंगे, और emotional cause है तो उस हिसाब से. So yeah, initially there will be some tests that you have to do.
No, as in you have depression. Is there any single test that can infer that you are in depression or not? Is
lab test? No.
So how to increase serotonin levels naturally is the next question.
We've done this one talk before on exercise, and that's a natural way to increase your serotonin levels. Exercise, लोग meditation कर सकते हैं, कोई नहीं कर सकते हैं, which is very understandable. Exercise everybody can do, even if that means sitting in the sun for 10 minutes and taking a walk for half an hour. Always releases good serotonin.
Yeah. Next question comes as, will pollution increase the chances of depression? Can it add to depression?
Yes, especially noise pollution. Okay, noise has a very different effect on people, or usse it can cause irritation, and it definitely cause anxiety. Otherwise, it's an indirect correlation where pollution affects health and health affects mental health. So then it's like a indirect correlation.
सोनाली जी पूछ रहे मैम व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन एंजाइटी एंड डिप्रेशन?
Anxiety is घबराहट होना. Anxiety is डर लगना. Anxiety is fear of something that's completely unknown. Depression is very real. Depression का मतलब है extreme sadness. Of course, depression का clinical मतलब है कि अगर आप 6 महीने तक you've had episodes of sadness for a prolonged period of time where you cannot get out of this sad mood, then it is called depression. Magar, of course, there are different kind of varying symptoms in that also. Magar, one always follows the other. Anxiety can follow depression and depression can follow anxiety. Normally, they are treated as one. अगर आप psychiatrist के पास जाओगे, so they will prescribe you some SSRIs which treat both anxiety and depression.
Ma'am, is it advisable to take medicines for anxiety?
If there is extreme, if you are getting panic attacks, and if you are getting panic attacks as frequent as once a week, then yes, you will need some mild medication before you start therapy. But eventually, therapy is important. Means only medication doesn't work. You have to have therapy.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
More so when it interferes with our day-to-day activities and we are unable to do our daily chores and do the things what we earlier used to do. Is that when it interferes?
When it interferes is when you need to get help, yes. When it interferes with your daily living, your work life, your family life, your social life, yes, it's important to get help. But very often people just are okay with just therapy and don't need medication. But if you take a light medication which can be tapered off within a few months, that's fine too. But it all depends on your level of anxiety and depression.
Yeah, this again, Nidesh ji bol rahe, he's giving the fact that India becoming depression capital of world, diabetes capital, and CID capital of the world. So he's stressing more upon so psychological well-being, etc. And hence we have started this series of another aspect of being healthy, mental health. So
I think I don't think India is the depression capital of the world. I don't think. I think India has a lot to be happy about. Unfortunately, because our roots are shaking. This is my belief. It's nothing to do with any kind of study. But unfortunately, we're not as grounded as we used to be, and our roots are shaking. And that's the reason why there is confusion and therefore there is mental health issues. Of course, mental health issues have various reasons for people getting any kind of mental health issue. But I think हमारा जो generation है, 50-year-olds का जो generation is it's at a very precarious stage. जो नहीं समझ पाते हैं कि हमारे roots क्या थे and हम जो पढ़े लिखे हैं तो how much to imbibe from the West and how much to kind of leave behind. And I think that's the reason why we are shaking. But I really don't think that India is a depression capital of the world.
Yes, agreed, Bhakti ji. Any other questions you want to ask? Audience can ask. And so we will be continuing this series, Sonali ji, more about anxiety, depression, and many topics to be covered, because mental health is often it is shelved and kept under the carpet. It is ignored and not at all addressed. So to be fully healthy, even mental health is also important. So we have started this series. Every Monday, Bhakti ji will join and take the dabba. And on Tuesdays, so as I said earlier, Dr. Sonal will come and discuss about lifestyle things and general health issues. And from Wednesday to Sunday, Dr. Meenakshi will take over her sessions as usual. So these 2 days, we are going to the other Rita Meneji wants to ask something. Rita ji?
गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन. डॉक्टर भक्ति, थैंक यू सो मच, आपने बहुत अच्छे से समझाया. मैं ये पूछना चाह रही थी कि हमारे जो सराउंडिंग लोग होते हैं वो हमारी प्रॉब्लम को समझ नहीं पाते कि हम डिप्रेशन में हैं. वो सोचते हैं इनकी नेचर खराब हो गई है, ये बदल गए हैं, मतलब ये वो इस तरीके की उनकी फीलिंग होती है. जो हमें सिम्टम्स आते हैं, जो हमें प्रॉब्लम होती है, वो हमारे सराउंडिंग वाले लोग समझ नहीं पाते. इसके लिए क्या करना चाहिए?
किया है because I have understood in अभी मुझे almost 28 years हो गए practice करते हुए, and I have understood that the understanding of premature kind of a stage. और इसलिए we thought that we will start this to make people understand कि ये जो series हम करेंगे on सोमवार, on Mondays, is to make people understand कि इसका मतलब क्या है, psychology का मतलब क्या है, mental health का मतलब क्या है. और कभी-कभी क्या होता है कि हम समझा नहीं पाते हैं. सपोज आपको जो भी सिम्टम्स आ रहे हैं, आप समझा नहीं पाते, वो सामने वाला समझ नहीं पाता है. And that's what it's important कि आप you ask for help. You say that मुझे डॉक्टर के पास जाना है, आप नहीं समझ पा रहे हो, मुझे डॉक्टर के पास जाना है. That's very important. अच्छा, अभी तक हमारे कंट्री में ऐसा था कि अगर आप साइकोलॉजिस्ट, साइकियाट्रिस्ट के पास जा रहे हो तो वो मेंटल हॉस्पिटल भेज देंगे या आपको पागल बना देंगे या मुझे लोग पागल बोलेंगे, you know. And this is all अभी तो that is not the case. Mental asylums are empty. Nobody is sending anybody to mental asylums. Okay, so ऐसा सोचना, unfortunately हमारे country में ऐसा है कि लोग डरते हैं psychiatrist के पास जाने के लिए. मगर if you need help, you should ask for help, and you can't blame the other person also because वो जानते ही नहीं तो क्या समझेंगे? If they don't understand what it is, how will they understand you? And so it's important for you to ask for help.
Thank you. Yeah. So that is the crux, and that is the motto of starting this new series. We'll understand more about this particular stream of general overall health or health well-being. And thank you, Bhakti ji. We thought that only psychiatrists, psychologists are there. In psychology also, so many professionals, so many different professionals whom to contact. Thank you for understanding all these things. Thank you. We will meet you next Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.